What's up, people? Time for us to have a very serious conversation. Because the videos I make on this channel, they typically pertain to one particular player, one particular coach, maybe a positional group, maybe a move that should be made or shouldn't be made. And sometimes I get a little broader than that and I talk about a particular player's overall decision tree for the next couple of years. And sometimes that player is really important to the team's success, like the quarterback. Sometimes I talk about what the coach does. Sometimes I talk about the decisions the coaching needs to make or not make. But above all of that, you have the front office. And sometimes I make videos about what the front office should be doing, the contracts they should be giving out, the contract moves they should make, the things that I would like to see them do. But there's something above even all that, like above the players, above the coaches, above the front office. It is the owner. The situation with ownership of the Seattle Seahawks. It all comes from there. And ultimately, at the end of the day, even though your owner isn't necessarily supposed to be making micro decisions with your team, they have a lot to do with whether or not your team reaches the goals that as a fan you want them to reach. So let's talk about the Jody Allen thing, because this is kind of a big deal. So with what happened after the season ended, this most recent season, where Jody Allen apparently had a meeting with Pete and John, and apparently everything went as normal. There was no talk of people getting fired. There was no talk of, you must make massive change or else I'm going to burn your office down. There was nothing like that. And then it became clear as the days went by that Pete's staying and John is staying, and it seemed like things were going to go back to normal. Now, we did do some other things, right? Norton got the axe 3 years too late. Wilson got traded. Okay. But here's the thing. Even though those changes are significant, the real question to ask is, if we're going to hold these guys accountable, like it took a while, but Norton finally got held accountable. You could say that maybe Wilson got held accountable because he hasn't played that well for the last year and a half. Okay, that's fine. There were obviously other considerations behind those moves. Norton gets fired partially because we want to change the defense. Wilson gets moved for a lot of different reasons that didn't have just to do with him. But are you ever going to see something like that with Carroll and Schneider under Jody Allen? Now, if you look at it in a vacuum, you might be able to talk yourself into saying, well, we had been a winning team for 9 straight seasons, made the playoffs 8 years out of 9, and then we finally had that bad season. And last year was a bad season. 7-10, and 4 of our wins came at the end of the year when we were basically out of it. 3 of those wins came against garbage teams, and yes, I'm including Arizona in that. At that point in time, they were a garbage team. So you could look at that and go, I can't hate the owner for not wanting to fire everybody because of one bad season after 9 pretty successful ones. Okay. But we know better, right? We're fans. We follow this team very closely. We see the terrible drafting. We see the lack of willingness to be aggressive in free agency. We see the lack of improvement on players. So a lot of people, myself included, a lot of people who comment on my videos, not everybody, and okay, but a lot of people, they see something a lot worse than just what the record tells you. They see a team that has won 1 playoff game in 5 years, that whole time having a franchise-level quarterback. They see these things. They see all the resources invested into the defense producing nothing good as a result. They see the Jamal Adams trade blow up as big as maybe any trade in the history of the NFL, given the fact that you were trading for somebody who you already knew was just a safety. And then you proceed to get even less out of him than even the pessimists thought you could get out of him. They look at these things and they go, how is it possible that these guys haven't been canned? How is Pete Carroll still our head coach? How is John Schneider still our GM? How do these guys still have all the power in this organization? Well, from that perspective, a lot of people look at that and go, well, it's because Jody Allen don't care. Jody Allen don't care at all. Doesn't care if this team loses. Doesn't care if the team is bad because she doesn't want the team. She never wanted the team. And there have been some things said recently that push back against that narrative, but seems to me that as of right now, you can at least make a coherent argument that Jody Allen just doesn't care about this team. So the idea is that she's just going to turn her head, look the other way, and let Pete and John do whatever they want to do with the knowledge that they're not getting fired unless they take out our Super Bowl 48 Lombardi trophy from the trophy case and use it as a practice football during two-a-days at the VMAC when training camp starts. That's what it will really take for them to actually lose their job. But within reason, within the realm of sanity, they can't get fired. They can do whatever they want. That's become one of the theories that a lot of fans have lately. And luckily, there is an end game here, and let's take a look at this a little bit here. So, when Paul Allen bought the Seahawks and got the deal for the stadium, the new Seahawks stadium, he had as part of that arrangement an agreement in place that he would not sell the team under any circumstance until a certain date. He could not, under any circumstance, sell the team. And in exchange for that, he got to build the stadium. And he got the taxpayers to pay for a good chunk of it. Now, I'm not sure what that date is by which he can sell. But obviously, Jody Allen is constrained by those same rules. If Paul Allen couldn't sell it, Jody Allen can't sell. So, Jody Allen, if this theory is true, is counting down the days until she is legally allowed to sell the team. And once that day comes, she will do it. And I don't dread this at all. There are some guys, local guys, who have more than enough money to buy the Seahawks. Jeff Bezos, there's Ballmer, and you also have other guys as well who may very well swoop in and decide they want to own a football team. And I'm not worried about the team moving. This is not what this is about. I'm not worried about some Texas oil billionaire buying them and moving them to San Antonio or something weird like that. I'm really not. This team overall has been too successful and too lucrative to be moved. I don't think the NFL would allow that. So that's not what this is about. But here's the thing that is actually a problem with this. It means that we are stuck here rooting for this team for the next couple years because I can't find a date, but the general consensus is that she can either sell in 2024, 2025, or 2026. One of those years will be the year when she can actually legally sell it, when that agreement will be expired. So here's the thing. Basically, until that date, we are going to have an effectively rudderless ship because Pete and John are basically owning the team and nobody can tell them what to do because there's no accountability for those two guys. And number two, the other problem is that you may see the team do things that a team that is trying to win football games would never do because their interest is not winning games, but rather their interest is making the team as appealing to potential buyers in 2024, 2025, 2026 as possible. So one of the things that you could do is cut costs and make the team as malleable as possible by the sell date. And let's take a look at our future salary cap commitments. Because one thing you notice with the Seahawks lately is they're not handing out a lot of long-term deals. And this can be seen quite clearly when you start looking into our future books. Let's look at the 2024 Seahawks salary cap right now. This is the earliest date where the Seahawks could be sold, if my information is correct, 2024. The only big long-term deals you are stuck with right now in 2024 would be Tyler Lockett and Jamal Adams. You still probably have to keep those guys around. They're going to have big cap hits. The dead cap hit is going to be still crippling to move on from. So you are probably stuck with those guys, but that's it. Okay? Quandre Diggs, you owe him 4.1 million if you cut him, but you save 11 million. That's not a problem. Will Dissly, I think we already know his third year is not happening, and I think this 3.1 million might be a typographical error. I think it's actually 0. Michael Dixon is a punter, and he's young and he's really good. Like that's not really going to hurt your resale value. Like every team in the league would like to have a Michael Dixon making less than $4 million for a season. And then you've got some guys who are going to be coming to the end of some rookie deals, or not end, but close to the end with like Eskridge, Brown, Forsyth. You may see Jordan Brooks be playing on his 5th-year option in 2024, I think. Yeah, that sounds right. So if you sell by this time, if you continue to hand out only short-term deals and keep everything kind of fluid going forward, you really might have a team that is stripped down and can be reimagined in any way the new owner wants to. Let's go to 2025, the next year, even more so. You've got Jamal Adams and Tyler Lockett making about $24 million against the cap each. By this time, the cap is going to be so huge that it's not going to be that bad, and you can cut both of them and only owe them about $7 million apiece. And then, of course, you have Michael Dixon, who's going to be making 4.25, but only 1.3 dead if you cut him. You could cut both. You could cut all of these guys, save decent money, and then the only guys left would be the cheap guys who are easy to move on from and the guys who are on rookie deals. And every team has to have those. So you could be looking at a completely stripped down 2025 Seahawks roster, and it becomes easily manipulated by any owner who wants to come in and say, okay, we're going to do things differently. We're going to do this, this, and that. I'm going to hire a new GM to rebuild this from the ground up, and they're going to have a completely clean slate to work with. Oh, and by the way, 2026, as of right now, we have nothing on the books. Nothing. And that's going to be appealing for a new owner, because that new owner can go, okay, I can bring in my own GM, my own coach, and I can do whatever I want to do through them. Because I'm not going to be married to any players. I'm going to have a lot of guys on the cap who are making not much money. I'm going to have a lot of guys with expiring deals. It's going to be easy for me to get out from these contracts because they're not going to have a huge guarantee associated with them. And the new GM can hit the ground running and just start building the roster in whatever image he wants. So it's going to be easy for me to find a GM because I'm going to be able to say, you get a completely clean slate. So that admittedly sounds pretty appetizing as a fan. However, it means that we are stuck with a team that in this scenario is not going to give a rip about winning for at least a few years. Because the goal will not be to win. The goal will be to reduce costs as much as possible and leave the roster as clean as possible for the next owner. I think that if the team is sold in the next 5 years, whenever the deadline comes up, you may see that guy come in and immediately push Pete and John out the door and say, I want to get my own guy. But you're not going to see Jody do that because she doesn't want to have to deal with it. She doesn't want to have to deal with it unless she feels like she absolutely has to because she doesn't care. If she indeed doesn't care, then she's just going to count the money. And it's going to be less money because the team isn't going to be winning, but it's going to be enough money for her to feel like, well, whatever, I don't care. And this is kind of what I'm afraid of, because not only does it mean we're stuck on this roller coaster of trash, because the team is not even going to be really putting all their resources into fielding a really good team and winning, it also messes up what you do with some of these players. Like, are you really going to let DK Metcalf walk in free agency because you don't want to give him long-term money, because you're trying to keep the cap clean for the next guy? Are you going to franchise tag him a couple times and make him angry? And then make it so he really doesn't want to be here by the time the new owner comes in? Because there are some football reasons why you maybe don't want to bring back Metcalf. I know there are some people who think he's overrated and whatever. I don't agree, but that's fine. But if you're deciding not to pay him because you're trying to keep costs down for the next owner in 4 to 5 years, that's not a football decision. That's a business decision. And as a fan, we could care less about the business of this team. We don't care how the books are balanced. We want wins. We want Super Bowls. We want success. So If this team starts making decisions that are based around money and business instead of winning, we're just kind of stuck here, and that really sucks until such a time as the team is sold. All right, let me know what you guys think about all this. I went through a lot, but this is bigger than any one player, or any one coach, or even any one front office decision. This is kind of everything, because if this theory is correct, then not only does this team have no real chance of doing anything good for the next 3 to 5 years, depending on whenever Jody can sell, but it also means that we're going to lose some valuable assets just by simple virtue of the fact that we're not willing to spend any long-term money right now because, again, clean slate for the next guy. And this is the kind of stuff that can make you wonder what you do as a fan. Like, when you look at this and you wonder, is this true? Is this team being run by somebody who cares more about money than winning? This is the kind of stuff that can make you wonder if you need to even be a fan of this team anymore, if you need to watch the games, if you need to be giving them a penny of your income or a minute of your time. Because bad seasons, a bad team, a team that loses a lot of games for several years, okay, that happens. There are teams out there that try to spend the money. There are teams out there that care, but they just can't get out of their own way. They lose, okay. But if this is the reason why this team becomes a bottom feeder for the next few years, that is something that at a certain point it becomes hard to justify even being a fan of them anymore. So we won't know until we get there, but I'm starting to wonder if the reason why the Metcalf extension is getting held up and why we're not seeing a lot of long-term contracts is because we're prepping for that inevitable sell in 2025, I think. Maybe 2024, maybe 2025, maybe 2026, who knows. All right, I will see you guys later on. Peace out, go Hawks. Let me know what you think. I mean, this is a big deal, guys. There's no getting around this. Even if Pete and John were good at their jobs, they would have a hard time overcoming an owner whose only interest is stripping down costs. Go Hawks.